Hello everyone and welcome back. I hope all is well. It is time for us to head to round 8 of this third season in F1 2019. We're hot off of another win in Canada, so we're only 10 points back of championship leader Max Verstappen now, but Sergio Perez is just ahead of us in the championship as well and is definitely going to make his presence known as we get ready to head out to France. So luckily all of our developments come through this week. Nothing fails. We've actually kind of jumped to the top of the development chart at this point, so we technically have the best car. But now we're headed off to France, which has not been my best track overall. I've typically been pretty good through sectors 1 and 2. Sector 3 has always been a bit of a struggle for me, but you can see McLaren also taking a big jump up. Red Bull kind of falling behind, so Verstappen gonna have to overcome that. Now he's got a very strong driver AI in this game as well. But if his car's not performing tip-top, we'll be able to actually run with him a little bit better. So we're taking a peek at some of our parts, just trying to balance our wear out. We haven't really had a good opportunity to take another engine penalty and get some fresh bits in there. So we're going to kind of spread the wear around and make sure that everything is performing to spec. And we'll see if we have another terrible qualifying session later on in the season, we'll take on another grid penalty, but we really don't want to do that as much as possible because we are in the thick of this championship fight, and starting down the grid is makes it a lot harder to get those necessary. Essentially, we need to win races at this stage in order to really close up on the group. So pretty much everything's a new component going in. Well, not new, but a fresh one. But let's head off to qualifying.
Welcome to qualifying for this weekend's French Grand Prix. The teams are making their last-minute adjustments before the lights go green and the fight for pole position gets underway. And I'm here, of course, with Anthony Davidson on what has turned out to be a very pleasant day indeed. No weather to interfere, no problems on the track, so absolutely no room for error.
That's right, Crofty. It's looking good out there at the moment. Each team will have their own game plan for this session, and of course, once the cars leave the garage, they'll be under parc fermé conditions, so any last-minute adjustments need to be done right here and now. Beyond that, it's all up to the driver. Who can keep their tyres in the right temperature, who can hit their apexes. No race fuel on board these days, of course. These are the fastest cars we've had in a long, long time, and it's right here in qualifying where they're at their absolute peak. Let's get started.
Alright, here we are popping out onto the track for our first flying lap in Q1, coming around through Sector 3 here at this stage. Really the one area is this corner here, really getting it slowed down and into this apex for a good exit was where I was losing a lot of time. Now that line I just took is kind of more of the ideal line, a very late apex in that corner, but it's just so tempting to get onto the apex very early, and then obviously very tough to get into the corner on that hairpin. But we're going to get on the power nice and quick, streak across this line, see where we're going.
You're in the top 10 now.
We're about a full second off of Valtteri's best time, so we're going to bang out another back-to-back kind of couple of laps. Lap 3, hop over the curb, lose a little bit of time, gain it back, but now a little slow on the throttle. You can see that time delta just ticking into the red. We've fallen all the way back to P12. Now we got to be P15 or better in order to get through Q1 here. So the checkered flag is already waved. This is our last chance to really improve. So we absolutely send it through that last corner. We're about to tick it almost to the green in the delta. Let's see if we can get through this corner well and clean. A little bit wide on the exit. That's going to make us a little slow coming out of that corner, and we're going to lose a little bit more of that delta time, following all the way down 14th as the next couple cars cross the line. Not as tidy as we should be through the second to last corner. Good through the hairpin on the throttle early. We're picking up a little bit of time on the delta. Just a teeny tiny improvement as we cross the line. Let's see if that's going to be good enough to get us into Q2. And P14, so just barely good enough to sneak our way into Q2. We are out. We waited until the very end with our poor qualifying at the start. We really didn't want to hamstring ourselves by having to start on the soft tires, so we're just running out to see what we can do on the medium tires, but P15 at the moment. So cross the line, see a little bit of an improvement, but we're going to be starting from 14th on the grid with free tire choice at this stage, so at least we'll be able to do that. Now, we had finished our rivalry with Vettel, and now let's take a look at our next championship rival. We're going to go ahead and pick up Sergio Perez. And now the rivalry is kind of just based on different activities throughout the race: qualifying position, race position, fastest laps, podiums, and that sort of thing. So that's how we gain rep through that. But now it's time to head to the race.
Welcome to Le Castellet as we return from across the Atlantic for the 2019 French Grand Prix. Reintroduced to the Formula One calendar just last year after an absence of almost 3 decades. The circuit Paul Ricard, where racing legends such as Alain Prost gave us some Turn 1 excitement before Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel and a commanding victory from Lewis Hamilton gave us a brilliant race last year. What, I wonder, will it have in store for us this season? The circuit Paul Ricard then, a 3.6 mile track, 25 miles east of Marseille. 15 corners here, 6 to the left and 9 to the right, with the main overtaking chance expected going into turn 8. Top speeds today should be around 205 miles per hour. A warm welcome to Anthony Davidson, who's beside me in the commentary box today. Let's talk about old-timer. No grip penalties, no mitigating circumstances, just a poor qualifying performance and a very disappointing start position for them today.
It's not a nice feeling, I promise you. They've got a quick car underneath them, but they've got onto the grid today and they need a pair of binoculars to see the start lights. They'll be desperate for a good start to make up for some of that deficit.
It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Bottas, Charles Leclerc and Giovinazzi, Weber, Norris, Gasly and Lance Stroll, Ricciardo, Sainz, George Russell, oldtimer, Butler, Perez, Kimi Raikkonen and Roman Grosjean. Magnussen and Alexander Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Keep your eyes open on the run to turn 1 and keep it clean. We want to come out in one piece. Good luck.
So Verstappen's quite a ways up the field, starting in the top 5, but something must have gone wrong for Sergio Perez, our other championship rival. He's starting just behind us on the grid, so he is going to have to fight through the field just as much as we are, but we both know that both of our cars have very good pace throughout the race. So we're going to go ahead and take a peek, see what kind of what tire strategies we can make work based on our tire wear. Just kind of testing out, seeing if we can drop off a 2-stopper. It's going to be a lot of extra time. It looks like the 1 stop, so we're going to get ourselves set up for the reverse 1 stop, as we usually like to do. Start on those mediums, kind of fight through the field on those tires, and then get onto the softs at the tail end of the race and hopefully make a little bit of extra time. We're going to push, I think, that stop out 1 more lap, try and get a little bit of an overcut, running some clear air from some of these other medium tire runners, but then really kind of sprint to the finish line. So we'll see if we can make that work, hopefully get ourselves way up the grid and into the points over the course of this race. We are starting just behind our teammate George Russell as the 5 red lights come up. And they go out and we get on the throttle, and it's not a great start for us. A lot of wheel spin. You see on our right mirror, Sergio Perez checking out on that right side, switching left, diving up the inside of us into turn 1. Now, as soon as this turn kind of switches back, you have to be careful about cars cutting across, like Butler there, who nearly removed our front wing. So, not a great start for us. We're down to 15th now, but we're going to go ahead and lunge up. Butler's going to just turn straight in on us. Luckily, wheel-to-wheel contact, no wing damage for us. We're going to go ahead and dive up the inside of Carlos Sainz here and really just kind of rubbing our way up the corners here. Checking the damage, making sure we didn't take any front wing damage from those 2 contacts. Luckily, able to keep the nose clean, but now we are tucked in behind George Russell. Daniel Ricciardo, turn up the engine deployment and get in that slipstream, head down into the chicane, 3 wide. Ricciardo kind of turns out into us, bumps into the side of us during our braking. That kind of takes him out of position, and there's yellow flags behind us, so big mess coming through that chicane. Daniel Ricciardo looks to be the worst off of it. But we managed to punch our way up to P11, and I do say punch because there's been a lot of pushing and shoving through the first few sectors of this race. And now we've got Lance Stroll, Sergio's teammate, right ahead. Perez still only a couple spots behind us, it looks like, according to the mini-map on the bottom left there. But so far, an eventful lap 1. We've picked up 3 positions, essentially. Gone from 14th to 11th after dropping as far back as 16th into the first couple of corners, but a little wide coming through the hairpin. Not a great great get down of the traction onto the start-finish straight, but just enough. Deployment is out, so we have to turn down. You have a limited amount of electrical energy you can deploy per lap, so we have to make sure to manage that, punch that bollard out of the way, but we've still got George Russell and Sergio Perez right behind us. And George Russell got a better run through turns 1 and 2, is looking for a way through, not quite close enough to dive up the inside of that corner there. So as we come to the close of Sector 1, we managed to kind of just hold station in 11th at this point. As we get ready to head down the long back straight off that sweeping left-hander, get the throttle down, crank everything up, see if we can close up that gap to Lance Stroll in front of us, get in the slipstream, and start picking our way further up through the positions. We seem to have pretty good race pace compared to our qualifying pace and compared to the cars around us. So let's see if we can take advantage of that in the early stages of this race and see if we can work our way up the field so that when we hit the pit stop phases, we have a good opportunity to run the faster tire to the tail end of the race, maybe get into the higher reaches of the grid. We're starting to gap. It looks like Perez has gotten by George Russell. Yes, he has. He's gotten by our teammate behind. George has been trying to hold him up a little bit as he's fallen off the pace a bit. But you can see Sergio is just starting to close that gap right back up that we had built. Looked like George was just kind of holding him up a little bit, playing a bit of a rear gunner. But at this point, we're both out of the points, so no point in really trying to affect Perez's race at this stage. But good through the final sector for us that time, in through the hairpin. DRS will be available to us soon, so we are closing right up on the tail, trying to catch Lance Stroll, but Sergio Perez is also right off the back end of us. We're kind of an even split in this racing point sandwich. It looks like Stroll has made his way past the McLaren, I believe, of that might be Lando Norris in front of us. I think we've got past Sainz a little earlier. I have to check and see the number if I can catch it, but I'm pretty sure that's Lando in front. But now Lance Stroll is kind of streaking off into the distance. This group is still fairly tight, so pretty much everybody's got DRS, so it makes it very tough to execute the pass. We have a kind of a look to the inside, but not enough. We have to kind of move a little bit to cover the line from Sergio Perez, who was really bearing down the back of us as well. Now, one thing that I did do in this setup of this race, I am running a little bit higher overall downforce because of my struggles in Sector 3, and in order to kind of catch that time back up, I have to give up a little bit on Sectors 1 and especially Sector 2, that long back straight. So we are still pretty quick via our engine modes, but under DRS, the other cars are going to be a little bit quicker on that straight line, so we definitely are going to have to use the slipstream and make big, bold moves. So we swing around the outside to kind of set up a move into the hairpin, up the inside of, yes, it is Lando Norris. Managed to squeeze them out. We're starting to get into the top 10, so the cars that started on the soft tire. So they are here at lap 4. Still probably going to have a little bit more grip and a little better overall pace than I am on the mediums, but a few more laps in, and they should start to fall off and give us a chance to really cut our way up the field. So we are into the points now, P10. Giovinazzi in front of us. There's a group of cars. Stroll, Gasly's off, very slow coming through. We have to adjust our line, and unfortunately he's able to get back on the racing line slowly, makes us check up, but he's able to slot in and keep the position. It was an opportunity for us to get ahead of him as he was forced off thanks to that three-way battle between him and Stroll and whoever else is leading that group. I think we got Giovinazzi. I'm not sure who was in front of that group. It looks like an Alfa Romeo up at the front. It is Lucas Weber in front. So there's this kind of a five-way fight going on right now. A little bit of splits in between. But we've also got Norris and Perez right up on the tail. So here we are having a kind of a look to the inside of Giovinazzi and that flat right-hander. We're going to get a little loose. So we have to catch the car, save it as he kind of bumped us against the apex there. That's going to allow Norris to kind of have a peek at the inside of us, but we're able to get back online, cover it off, and he is still just looking to make a move past us. But a little bit of an overzealous attempt at an overtake through that flat-out right-hander while he's on the softer tire from a little bit of a ways back. It's not a braking zone, but we did catch good slipstream and good run out of that corner. But now we got to keep it nice and tidy through the last couple of corners. We get on the main straight, DRS flap open, tucked tight in the slipstream. We're going to swing to the outside so we can have the inside of turn 2, try and outbrake into turn 1. We're able to get fully through into turn 1, and now turn 2, swing it out wide, carry as much speed as possible, but Giovinazzi's got a pretty good run on us. So he's going to have a little peak, not close enough to make a dive up the inside, and now after our little fight, we have to kind of close the gap to the cars in front. So hop ahead, lap 8, as cars have been peeling off one by one as we've kind of caught them throughout the phases of this early stages of the race. The soft tire runners coming in, getting fresh rubber. So now kind of trying to work our way past Lance Stroll. Now this not having that top end speed, not having that good straight line has really harmed us in getting past some of these cars. But it looks like finally Lance Stroll is peeling off as well. So now it is us versus Sergio Perez right behind. A little slow coming out of the hairpin there, but DRS open. Turn up the electrical deployment. Oh, Perez has a great run out of that. Our slow exit has really cost us. He's going to get nice and clean on the brakes there past us. So we're going to go ahead, not fight him too hard, just kind of tuck up under and try and ride with him until we hit the next DRS straight. As he moved the inside, play a little bit defensively. He's a little slow through that second corner in the sequence, so that kind of backs us off of him. And that's going to give him a little bit of a gap as you have to get through this kind of aero-limited corner onto this main straight. Kind of a similar problem that you have at Barcelona, where if you're following very closely through that final corner onto this main straight, you lose a lot of time. It's very hard to keep close and get a good run down probably one of the better overtaking opportunities. But we were a little slow through the chicane there. We're starting to feel the effects of tire deg a little bit, but we are up into P3 at the moment, as looks like pretty much all of the top cars have come into the pits. It looks like there is a Mercedes out in the very front, kind of coming a couple of corners ahead of us. Looks like he's going through turn 12 right now. We'll see if he dives in and allows us to move ourselves up via the pit stop and see if we can go. It looks like, so lap 19, I believe on our strategy, we should have about another 7-8 laps left to go on these tires before we get onto the final phase of the race. And yes, the Mercedes has gone into the pits, got on a new set of tires, and is already starting to move down the straight. As Hamilton, he's gone on to the hard tires. So we get a pretty good run on Perez. We're going to look to the outside of the braking zone. We have to kind of delay our turn in. It's not a great run out there. Kind of lose the ground. So new strategy from Jeff is the same strategy. So lap 18 for softs versus lap 18 for softs. So as we're talking pit strategy, there you go. 8 more laps to go before it is time for us to get on these soft tires. We'll run 9 laps to the end of the race on those bad boys. Here we are, DRS open on the main straight. Probably going to be a little too far back. We're going to turn down the ERS deployment. Just kind of charge the batteries at this stage of the race and to kind of hold station right behind Sergio Perez and just kind of relax, try and conserve the tires as much as possible. I'm kind of hoping at this point that he pits the lap before us, and we can kind of go for the overcut. We just kind of stay tight to him in the slipstream, in the DRS range of him, and save our tires, save our energy, save some fuel as well. And then when he dives in, crank everything up to 11 and just see what kind of lap we can do on our in-lap and try and post a tremendous lap time until we get on the new tires and pop out, see if we can overcut him around this track. Now, might be looking to undercut, but which has typically been stronger, but is the way my current strategy is. I think if I try and undercut and go a lap early, the soft tires are just going to be absolutely dead by the time we hit the end of the race. And I think he's going to have to go, since he started on the mediums. I don't know that he will have the tire characteristics in order to go on the softs. We'll just have to kind of wait and see. We are starting to lose a bit of that tire wear advantage that we had throughout a lot of Season 2. We did put a lot of effort into our chassis development in Season 2, and with the development resets, I think a lot of other cars have kind of caught up in that regard. And they're starting to get some good tire wear. So we're not necessarily having the pure strategy advantage that we had in some of the races last season. We are starting to kind of run apples to apples essentially on tire strategy, and it's really kind of pit stop timing that's going to be the determining factor. Now, there is an odd opportunity from here and there. If we can make it through to Q3 on the medium tires and on a 2-stopper track and make it a medium onto hard 1-stopper, might be a good strategy. But here we are, hopping ahead, lap 18 now. We've got a bit of clear air in front of us, so kind of turned everything up to run a quick lap as much as we could, but we've got about a 10-second gap to Hamilton, which we will definitely lose. Perez only 4.4 seconds behind that, so he's had a pretty stellar outlap, it appears. And it's time for us to grab some fresh rubber. So let's see if we can have a good clean pit entry, swing out wide, get on the brakes to the slow pit entry. Only a 37 mile an hour speed limit on this one, as opposed to the 47 you see on some of the other tracks. So really have to get on the brakes, but here we are diving in. It is time for some fresh rubber. Let's see where we come out in relation to the top two, Hamilton and Perez. I believe our strategy has really given us the good opportunity to jump a lot of the cars in the top 10. So we'll see where we come out as we get out of the pit. So nice quick stop, soft tires on, cross the limiter line, throttle down. A couple of cars coming down the pit straight, really going to squeeze us, not give us the room to rejoin, and that is really going to hurt our time. But they are on the hard tires, we are on the soft, so we really need to clear this group as quick as possible. Lance Stroll, Valtteri Bottas, and our teammate George Russell just behind. We got caught up, and you can see just how much extra pace we have lunging through some of these slower corners, how much extra grip we have. But let's see if we can make a move on this first straight here. We're nice and tight behind Valtteri this time, tucked into the slipstream. DRS wide open. Let's see, he's going to have a run on Stroll, who does not have DRS. We're going to tuck in, hit the braking zone, and we're going to get pinched. We got pinched by Stroll against the apex, but we're going to go ahead and try and follow Valtteri through. 3 wide on the exit. We get the traction down a little better, but as their aero advantage kind of comes in, they're going to get a little run. 3 wide through this right-hander. Valtteri has a little tap of us as we try and squeeze our way 3 into 1. Incredibly dangerous corner, but we somehow manage to keep the car alive, and nobody spins out, and we manage to get past both of them. That was genuinely terrifying. But here we are. We made it through. Used a lot of our ERS deployment in order to carry the speed a little wide through the hairpin, so we're going to turn it down a little bit. We've managed to clear a little bit of that gap. We're at P4 at the moment, and there's our other championship rival, Max Verstappen, right in front of us. So he is on the hard tires, though, so we have the opportunity with our tire advantage to really try and run him down. We've got 2.3 seconds back at the last sector split, the start-finish split. So we'll see how much ground we've gained, and just visually we can see we've gained a lot of ground on him as we cross the second split, 1.8 seconds back. We set a purple first sector, going a little wide through that corner. Not quite close enough to get in DRS range or attack, but we have turned the ERS just to the high setting, which I can run pretty consistently now, thanks to some of those upgrades we've had early in the season. But we're going to turn it back down to medium in the braking zones, try and conserve as much as we can to try and have enough to really, really attack Verstappen. So let's see what the sector split is now. He crosses the line. We cross like 1.4. We've taken another 4/10 out of him. We're about 6/10 up on our previous best lap. We've gapped George Russell 2.2 seconds back already. And now you can see, you can hear the revs of Verstappen in front of us as we close up, carrying a little bit more speed through Sector 3 on the soft tire here. So into the second to last corner, setting ourselves up for that hairpin. Try and make a good run through the hairpin onto the main front straight. Get the hammer down. Good traction out of there. He crossed the line, recross. 0.8. We set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:33 flat to the thousandth of a second. And now we are certainly in the range where we will have DRS on him down the next main straight, and we're just going to try and close ourselves up enough so that we can have a really strong attack. And here he is, slow through the first couple of slow corners. Another good advantage of these soft tires. We get the throttle down nice early. We're in the aero wake there. You can see us washing out a little wide as he gets on a little better. He's got a little bit better top speed coming out of that corner. DRS is open. Tuck into the slipstream. can we close the gap? We're going to have a look to the outside on the brakes. We go right around the outside and just kind of force it through very late on the brakes. Didn't look like a good overtaking opportunity, but we managed to get it done. And now, eyes forward, 5.8 seconds to Sergio Perez on his hard tires, just ahead of us in the race. And we've still got 6 laps to go, so we need to try and take a full second a lap out of Sergio Perez in front of us. Now Max Verstappen is still kind of hanging on the back of us a little bit, but once we get to sectors 1 and 2, we should really be able to gap him. I mean, the fact that he's hanging tough with us through our worst sector is not anything I'm particularly concerned about. We're going to go ahead and hit the throttle, get across the start-finish line, see what the split is in front of us. 5.1, so we managed to take a few tenths out. And we went about a tenth faster than our previous best, so we take another fastest lap. We're trying to get that extra point. So hop ahead, lap 26. Now we managed to close up. You can see Sergio Perez just in front of us. We managed to make some headway on the first few laps, but since the last about 2 laps ago, we've been kind of sitting at this 2.2, 2.3 second gap, and my soft tires are starting to fall off their cliff, and we're really having trouble kind of gaining position on Sergio Perez at this point. So it's starting to look like at this phase of the race, we are kind of set in for third place. So it's kind of a matter of turning up the ERS on the straights, being a little bit more gentle on the acceleration zones, trying to conserve these tires, because if we make a big mistake, Verstappen's only a couple of seconds still behind us on a much more durable tire. Just like we've kind of leveled our closing rate on Perez, we've kind of leveled our separation rate on Verstappen as well. So we do have a bigger gap, a few more seconds, but a big mistake and it could put us into real jeopardy on some worn tires. But here we are coming through the second to last corner, about to come through the hairpin to start the final lap of the race. You can see the back end stepping way out as we get on the throttle in that traction zone. Looks like with a full lap left to go, we should have plenty of clear air from Verstappen, but our late charge was not quite enough. The tires didn't have quite enough life. We really took a lot of life out of them early, and realistically, we probably lost about 2 to 4 seconds when we came out of the pits in the middle of that battle with Stroll and Bottas and George Russell. The fact that they didn't leave us any space coming out of the pit lane was real tough. And that definitely cost us some time in the early stages. Now, it's one thing to catch a car in front. It's another thing to make that pass stick. And especially since we're not running as much straight line speed, we are definitely running a little higher downforce. It would have been tough, I think, to really get past Sergio Perez, but I think we would have had a much better opportunity. We would have caught Verstappen a lot earlier. We wouldn't have had to take so much out of the tires battling in the early stages of the stint. But here we are crossing that next sector split. 3.3 back of Perez. Verstappen has closed up to about 4 seconds now, but we are just running the last few corners, the last sector, and just kind of pushing. Now, Perez really made a good charge. Has almost caught all the way back up to Hamilton in front, who's really kind of thrown his hat into the championship race and trying to make it kind of a four-way spat. But unfortunately, we are going to lose ground on Sergio Perez, but we are going to gain ground on Max Verstappen as the checkered flag is out, and we cross the line and stay just on the podium from P14.
Yes, that's a podium. Excellent drive. The team have worked especially hard this weekend, and this is a fantastic reward.
That's it for another Grand Prix and a fantastic win for Mercedes. Talk to me, Ants. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes. Let's see how the driver standings have changed. This result narrows the gap between our championship leader and the rest of the standings. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Well, you can't fault anything that Sergio Perez did out on the track today. He drove flawlessly, making him an easy pick.
Let's move on to the constructors. The lead at the top comes down after a strong weekend from the challenging pack. There was also a strong showing from the Mercedes team today as they make their way up the standings. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Well, it looks like late in the race there, Leclerc took another pit stop and managed to nick the fastest lap from us by 9 thousandths of a second. So unfortunately not going to get that extra point, but the way that it's kind of laid out, we've definitely crunched the top of the leaderboard with Verstappen losing out, Perez climbing a little bit closer, and us climbing a little bit closer. So let's take a peek at the standings. Perez 1 point back, 7 points back, and now Hamilton and Bottas are tied at 65 points on the season, 49 points back, and it's an early stage of the race. If he picks up a couple of wins, he's going to be right back in this championship fight. And finally, George Russell getting into the points, contributing to our run in the Constructors' Championship. Pretty good drive from him today to go from 13th to 9th. Picked up 4 positions
Amazing
there.
performance out there. I'm sure you're pretty happy with that.
Hi, Claire. How you doing?
You gained a lot of positions during the race, didn't you?
I sure did, and it really came down to, I would say, pit strategy, but you know, it's down to the chassis development. We really, cars nimble and light. That definitely helped out.
How are things between the two of you?
Close, I don't know, about 3.4 seconds, but things are great, and the competition is pushing us both.
Appreciate your time.
Oh, that's it? Only 2 questions?
Great work.
Third
this
place,
weekend.
2 questions.
It was fantastic to see you up on that podium.
Yes, this time it's a podium, Emma. The last 2 times we said podium when I won. Come on, give me a little bit of respect. But here we are, new contract time. Let's make some adjustments. Obviously going to want that pit stop efficiency. Having that fast, like around 2-second pit stop is big. I mean, that's literally seconds saved on the race. So we're going to try and crank up our race development bonus. See, it looks like we're just kind of a little overzealous there. So let's tweak the expected qualifying position. We're not far off. It would be nice to have the simultaneous development to be able to hit 2 developments per department at a time. It's still a little off, so we're going to go ahead and turn that off. Only allowed to do 1 development per department, but pretty much bang on the value. So we got that contract. Expected to qualify 5th now, and expected to finish 2nd in the races. And a hard team goal. So new contract is up. I'm not really worried about the contracts as much. I've got pretty much goodwill. I'm really worried about developing the car, keeping that going, and fighting for the championship. I mean, we're right there. We're 7 points out of first place, and now we're going to go ahead and spend our pretty good haul of points. So we're going to keep this aero development going. McLaren has really jumped up. Let me take a peek. We're still leading in there. And I'm going to go ahead and go with the power development. I like to have something each race, and if I was to buy that major adjustment, it would take 2 races for that to come good. So I like to keep at least 1 thing on the burner to continue to go it up. And we're going to use the remaining points to do some chassis development. Help that part of our car development out a little bit, because we're definitely falling behind again in that regard. We're just kind of checking on the health. See, we got those 2 going. We're still at the top of the development chart. Very tight battle up there with Racing Point and McLaren. But as we are sitting now 3rd in the championship, but a very close 3rd, a very tight championship at this stage, we look ahead to Austria, another track that we've had pretty good success with over the years. Last 2 seasons, I believe it's rained at various stages during the race or during qualifying. So let's see if we can have an all dry Austria this year. But I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for joining me. See y'all a little later. Peace.